Welcome to Washington in Focus. I'm Brett Davis, the Center Square's Washington State editor. Joining me today is our investigative reporter, TJ Martinell. How are you doing today, TJ?
I'm doing well.
That's enough chit-chat. I say that because I want to dive right into today's story. You recently wrote a piece about the State Utilities Commission ruling that basically admits the carbon tax increases fuel costs. I'm going to read the first few paragraphs and then have you jump off here. So let me set the stage here. You wrote, earlier this month, the Washington Utilities and Transportation Commission approved a request by Puget Sound Energy to increase its natural gas rates to cover the costs of the state's cap-and-trade program under the Climate Commitment Act. However, the approval also carried with it a stipulation that the utility provider could not show on customers' bills the reason for the rate increase, a decision that was recommended by the Washington Attorney General's office. So what's the reason given for this, what seems to be an endorsement of a lack of transparency?
Well, the argument made by the AGO Assistant Attorney General Nina Sutek was that it would confuse people if they were to include a itemized cause of a rate increase. Kind of like if you have a restaurant and they want to note that the minimum wage increase was responsible for the increase in their bill. So they're saying that it would create too much confusion. However, the UTC said, while you can't show what's causing the energy rates to increase, you can show credit that benefits the customers. So something that makes it go down, you can show that. That apparently is not too confusing for people to understand.
So seems like a rather one-way street.
It's kind of like a prescription drug where they can only talk about the benefits and none of the side effects.
Huh. Yeah, I mean, and just from a transparency perspective, this just seems like a bad move. And also from a PR perspective, it just seems like the state is trying to hide the obvious. Am I wrong on that? Or is that how it's being perceived out there?
Well, what's fascinating is that the increase, if you look at the actual dollar amount, it's not that much. It's $3.71 per month, or a 3.89% increase. And then there's an even lower rate increase for lower income customers. So that's basically skipping a cup of coffee at Starbucks one day and recover the cost. So it's very fascinating to see how quickly they are to put the kibosh on showing any increase of any kind, because what that implies is that once they put that down on the customer's bill and they're allowed to itemize it, if you look into it, basically it would be fair to assume that they expect that increase to go up.
Right. Yeah, you mentioned that it's not that big of a number right now, but it seems like maybe this is a case of the cover-up is worse than the crime, at least for the time being.
Yeah, if they had just said, yeah, sure, you can show it. It's $3.71. It's the Starbucks. They could have actually done a complete opposite. They could have said, yeah, this is a minimal increase and it's not that big of a deal. So sure, like what's the harm in showing that it's $3.71? Nobody's going to freak out about that. If it was $30.71, people would freak out. So it would be fair to assume that they believe that the impacts of this cap and trade program on energy rates is going to get worse as we move forward. And so they don't want this to set precedent.
So they're trying to, halt the laws of economics. You mentioned in your story that Todd Myers from the Washington Policy Center had a few things to say about that. Could you go into some of what he had to say?
Yeah, he said, basically, it's not only dishonest, but it violates the spirit of Washington's laws and Constitution. And here's the fascinating part. The Attorney General's office is supposed to be the public counsel for the public. So they're supposed to be advocating with the UTC on behalf of the public. And what they're advocating is that the public not know what's causing their energy rates to increase.
Seems pretty much the polar opposite of what they should be doing.
Well, and what's going to be interesting is how this dynamic of transparency or lack thereof plays out if Governor Jay Inslee decides to introduce any kind of fuel transparency proposal due to the increase in gas prices in our state that people are claiming is the result of cap and trade. He's claiming that fuel companies are price gouging or raising their prices. He wants more transparency. So are we going to see the same thing where you can show the cause of a price increase as long as it doesn't include cap and trade? So that's something for people to think about.
Cap and trade keeps continuing. I understand they had the third quarterly auction yesterday, I believe. So it'll be interesting to see how much money they brought in for that and how that impacts fuel prices across the state.
Well, if the state has its way, we probably might not know.
That's true. We might not know. That's what we count on people like you to dig into and find out for us. So keep up the good work. We appreciate it. Listeners can keep up with this story and more at thecentersquare.com. For TJ Martinell, this is Brett Davis. Please subscribe and thanks for listening.